Oh hell internet, two quick things to start. First of all, it's the muggy season here in Bangkok, so I'm going to be keeping the air conditioning on, and there may be rain noise too. We'll just have to hope that Audacity can deal with that. Second of all, this video is going to be kind of irreverent, and no matter which side you are on, you might not like that. So, once again, we have a controversy around a TV show, and it's Star Wars again. In Andor Season 2, a woman has an encounter with an Imperial officer who moonlights as a greengrocer. He tries to sell her some unwashed grapes, and she declines. He then tries to give them to her for free, but she still isn't having any of it because they are obviously mouldy and gross. Fortunately, she manages to keep her fruit basket clean. There are two specific controversies about this scene. Firstly, as to whether unlicensed greengrocery belongs in the franchise like Star Wars at all. That premise is flawed. In a story about people, all aspects of personal experience are on the table. What belongs or should be there is a non sequitur in the absolute sense, although of course viewers have the right to exercise their own discretion. Which brings us to the flip side of that controversy, where some people say that the scene is fine but there should have been better content warnings. I'm not going to die on this hill either. I didn't even watch the damn show, but my immediate feeling is life can happen to you unprovoked. Isn't there some value in allowing yourself to be confronted sometimes? With that in mind, I think that if content warnings are needed, then a generic warning is sufficient. This program contains scenes which some viewers may find distressing. This lacks the specificity that some want, but a content warning is of limited value anyway. What if you don't see the beginning of the show? Do we have to put a red border around the screen, and then maybe the border could become thicker or more saturated as the relevant scene approaches? No. There comes a point at which it becomes completely untenable. As a supporting point to my feelings, and I admit I've never been the recipient of unwashed grapes, but it seems to me that both of the following statements are true. Catharsis is not always sublime, and you are stronger than you know. But here's the twist. The same principle is applicable, albeit in a different fashion, to anyone who struggles to accept the nature of a post-tradition world that we are now living in. Catharsis is not always sublime, but you are stronger than you know. The second controversy around the greengrocer scene is connected directly to a YouTuber called Star Wars Theory, who insisted that the Empire, and specifically Darth Vader, would have a very strict agricultural policy and would not permit unlicensed greengrocery. I admit I only watched a section of his coverage on this, so if I've misinterpreted him, please let me know. I will note in passing that Anakin Skywalker definitely showed signs of interest in distributing contraband fruit products, but we can plausibly accept Vader's claim that Anakin is dead. So what about old Chesty himself, eh? Before we get to that, way back in 2018, one of my first produced videos was an exploration of masculinity in the manga movie Fist of the North Star, and I noted that while both primary antagonists are destructive, it is nonetheless possible to discern noble qualities in each of them. This is not to praise them entirely, but one of the inherent factors of postmodern human life is that people are complex, and that we err when we essentialize them for their actions. Or, as some Indian thinkers would have it, there are no nouns, only verbs. Or, as some Christians would have it, hate the sin and not the sinner. 10 years ago, the left was encouraging others not to describe people as ists, but rather their behaviour as ist. But now no one seems to be doing that. At the most charitable, this is what I can see in Star Wars Theory's attempts to bestow some kind of honourable aspect onto Darth Vader. He is self-controlled and disciplined, and he demands the same from those he commands. I think this is actually reasonable from what we see of him on screen, but it is equally reasonable to extrapolate from the nature of the empire he serves to things that would likely happen in such a regime, even if they likely wouldn't happen in the military context, like the bridge of a Star Destroyer, which, let's be honest, is pretty much all we've seen of the Empire up to this point. To suggest that we have confidence of what Vader's perspective would be, then, is pretty unwarranted. That is only in your headcanon, Mr. Theory. But now, Star Wars Theory has undoubtedly read more Star Wars lore than I have, and maybe he would be able to quote some novel or series which supports his case. That doesn't affect me though, and this seems to be the crux of the issue. Both sides seem to acknowledge the validity of the other side feeling the way that they do. And I can accept that Star Wars theory, as a lorehound, feels like he has a stronger case for his feelings. But unless the Star Wars fandom has had its own Council of Nicaea that I missed, not impossible I suppose, then the term Star Wars canon is largely meaningless, and all that anybody has is headcanon. And everyone's is different, and always was. Postmodernism! But headcanon is a form of canon nonetheless, and a deeply held canon is a spiritual position. So I understand if you feel confronted by your own canon being challenged. Star Wars theory seemed, like so many people before him, to double down after the backlash, and I suspect this is because, in his mind at least, he never demanded that other people accept his canon, even though his rhetoric certainly implied a certain disgust for their heresy. That side of the fandom then circled the wagons, and the battle lines were drawn. You can be sure that Star Wars theory received some pushback that accused him of being the real heretic. It seems to me that there is a lesson about engagement style to be learned here, although I do wonder if such lessons can ever be truly learned on the internet, and especially in the hypersensitive, hyper-individualized 21st century United States. But then, perhaps, my lack of faith is disturbing. For my part then, and coming to wrap up, was his canon even really challenged at all? I mean, Vader wasn't there, right? We don't know what he would have done. Even in the incomplete conception of Star Wars that passes for my own headcanon, clearly Vader does not engage in unlicensed greengrocery. I mean, he can't, right? But if he were there, I do think there is a non-zero chance that he does casually punish the fruit pirate, if only for his lack of discipline. I put this probability somewhere lower than 50%, but here's what I would say too. If it did happen that way, then I put a probability of more than 50% that he just then offers compulsory undertaker services to the woman instead. Your mileage may vary though, and that's okay. If you do want to respond and tell me why I'm wrong, please aim for 200 words or less. I'm not going to start expanding my own Star Wars canon by reading essays with quotes from the expanded universe or similar. And that's okay too. Bye for now.